So the K1 visa basically allows the foreign spouse of a US citizen to come into the US to get married within 90 days. So the visa that you're given to come to the US is only for 90 days. It expires after 90 days. And when you come into the US within that 90 days, you must get married to the sponsoring spouse. You must marry within the 90 days that you are in the US if you do receive the K1 fiancé visa. You will have to show that or establish or demonstrate that you have met your fiance once within 2 years of filing. So if any circumstance does prevent you from meeting your spouse within 2 years of filing a petition, you can request for a waiver. Like any other immigration benefits, is purely discretionary. So it depends on how you put the waiver together and the officer approving it. Purely discretionary. Nobody has the right to any benefits in the United States. So all immigration petitions and benefits, purely discretionary as well. So K1, it allows the foreign fiancé of a US citizen, female, male, to come to the US with the intent to get married within 90 days. So you come into the US, you must marry within 90 days. So let's say you're doing, you met a person online, right? And you fly to your fiancé's home country, abroad, and then you meet the person within 2 years. You can petition for the person, but you must establish that when the person comes, your fiancé comes to the United States, you're going to get married within 90 days. So what happens when you come to the US and you realize that what you expected or how you felt, you don't feel the same way, right? Your feelings have changed, and so you are not interested in getting married to the sponsoring fiancé. You have to go back to your home country. It changes a bit if you put yourself back on the dating market and then you fall in love with someone else and decide to get married to the person. You can do that, but you won't be able to adjust your status in the United States. You have to go back to your home country and then have your new fiance file the K1 for you to come to the US, and then you can adjust your status that way. If you overstay without getting married, it's going to be very difficult. If you come on a K1 and you overstay, it's going to be very difficult for you to adjust your status in the United States if you get married to someone else. So you come in, you have 90 days to get married. If you're unable to do that within 90 days, your visa expires. And the purpose for which you were granted that visa is for you to come to the US and get married. So that must happen. If that does not happen, you would have to go back home. If you happen to fall in love with someone else, that's fine. You can get married to the person. After you've gotten married to this new person, this new US citizen, you have to go home, go back to your home country, get a visa, another fiancé visa, and then you come to the US and adjust your status that way. Anywhere between 4 to 8 months is how long it should take when you file the petition with the USCIS. So that is the first thing to do. The first step is to file the petition with the USCIS. And then when you receive an approval, the USCIS is going to send a receipt of that approval to the National Visa Center. That is an agency within the State Department, and they deal with all consular activities abroad. And so the National Visa Center, upon taking delivery of the approval notice, would work with you and your fiancé here in the United States and abroad, collect additional documents. You're going to get some medicals done. If you have criminal convictions and charges, that may be a bar, and so you may not be able to come into the US. Okay, National Visa Center, depending on the backlog, it can take anywhere between, I know someone whose K1 petition actually took about a year to come to the US, to get a visa and then to come to the US. So it takes a while. It does take a while, depending on the backlog. It all depends. That is a lawyer's favorite answer. It all depends on the backlog that the National Visa Center has, just like the USCIS. If they have a backlog, it's going to take some time for them to process your visa to come to the US. And it's only when you come to the US that you can adjust your status. You cannot adjust your status or apply for a green card from abroad. You have to be in the United States to do that. Now, the landing petition is the form I-129F. You file that to the USCIS. Once it's approved, you go to the National Visa Center, and then you have to complete additional forms like the affidavit of support showing that you can you have enough income to sponsor your fiance who is coming to the United States to get married to you within 90 days. You'd also have to establish that you have seen your fiance once within 2 years. Augustine, I am going to answer your question. I promise you. I see that you've asked the same question twice on Facebook. I would answer your question. I just want to run through the fiance visa, and then I would take some questions. Okay. So you should be able to prove that you can support your fiance, right? And that is where you're going to file the affidavit of support. So depending on your household, I believe at least with 2 people, you need to make an income of 20,440 a year. So that is that for the income, and then you have to show that this person is really truly your fiance. People must know about it. So you need letters, right, testifying that both of you are really truly in a relationship. You would have to send pictures. You have to add pictures as evidence to show that both of you actually have met before. In this day and age, there's the online dating, blind date here and there, but you should have met before. You can request for a waiver if you haven't, but like I said, it's purely discretionary, and so it all depends on the officer who is reviewing your packet, whether he or she is going to approve it. Purely discretionary. Nobody has the right to an immigration benefit in the United States. Okay, so you are not eligible if you're already married. If you don't meet the income requirements, you won't be eligible. If you do have some criminal convictions, that would be a bar, and so you won't be able to get a visa. And of course, if you're unable to answer your questions when you attend the interview, someone reached out to me. I did consult with a client who attended the interview for the K1, and he couldn't answer some basic questions about his fiance, and that's a problem, right? So you must be able to pass the in-person interview, and be sure that you don't pose any risk as far as health is concerned, right? So public health is extremely important. Your medical records must be apt. No criminal convictions, which would be a bar. And so you attend the in-person interview, you're able to answer all the questions, check, and then you get a visa, you come to the US. You must marry within 90 days. If you don't marry within the 90 days and you don't meet anyone that you are interested in or in love with, and so you don't get married at all, you have to go back to your home country. This is not a case where you came on a B1, B2, you got married to a US citizen, and so you can just adjust your status. It doesn't work that way. If you're on a K1, you have to get married. If you don't get married to the sponsoring fiance and then you get married to someone else, you can get married, that's fine, but you would have to exit the country, get a new K1 visa, and then come into the United States to adjust your status. So that is that. Adjusting your status, form I-485, I highly recommend that you get an attorney to assist you. And then you're going to get your green card, your work authorization, and you're good to go. After 3 years, you would be eligible to apply for the US citizenship.